Matt Leonard,
Okay.
social in association with Empire Fight Store. We're here, Gareth A. Davies, baking hot day. How are we, mate?
I'm very well, lifesaver, Matt Lenihan of Boxing Social.
Very good, mate. Very good. Look, it's been an interesting weekend. A cracking fight card in Birmingham. The top two fights were full of drama, full of something. The headlines, I think, went a different direction, one where probably didn't expect them to. But yeah, and obviously before that as well, there was the Ryan Garcia news. It's been a week full of news. Let's go through Saturday night first. We saw Tyler Denny defeating the returning Felix Cash, who was out of the ring for 18 months. Good performance. Only went a few rounds because of the cut. But a European title defence for Tyler. He moves on, and Ben Shalom on an Eddie Hearn shirt, a very happy boy.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Tyler Denny deserves great praise. He's really grown as a middleweight, and I think he deserves some big nights now. I thought Felix Cash looked like he'd been out of the ring since December 2022. I thought his timing was off. I thought he fought Tyler Denny's fight, kept it on the inside, should have kept it long, and he paid the price. Was it a clash of heads? Was it a punch, a cross that cut him? I thought it was a clash of heads at the time. I haven't watched it back, but I watched it live at the time. I wasn't there live, by the way. I was watching it on the DAZN platform. I'd been at Ryan Farag and Kaisi Kademi and at the York Hall on Friday night for Warren Boxing Management, working with Dev and Umar and a few others on the Box Nation show, which was a lot of fun. Love the York Hall, but again, you needed 3 changes of clothes there. It was so warm. A very fine victory for Tyler Denny. I thought the right man won on points. It was unfortunate that the eye was cut, but in all honesty, I only saw one winner in that fight from 3-4 rounds onwards. I thought Felix had his game plan wrong. I think he was tying him up in the wrong way. It was a little bit scrappy, but that all suited Tyler. And I wanted to look at where he was now, because Tyler Denny, Hamza Shiraz would be a good fight in my view.
100%, yeah.
You know, and I think if they are looking for an opponent for Hamza Shiraz on the September card at Wembley Stadium, I don't know whether they'll announce it could be a Tyler Denny, but the fact that Ben Shalom and Eddie Hearn were working together, and Eddie Hearn's working with Frank Warren, and we know Hamza's is a Queensbury guy, who Frank's had from the very start, by the way, which I just want that to be noted. Growing fighters in that way. No, Tyler impresses every time you see him, and he's worthy of he's very tough, he's very durable, he's very uncomplicated. I was just trying to get his record up here actually, because I wanted to look at the yeah, here it is. He's one of those guys who, for me, he's looked better and better. My connection isn't working on that laptop. He's got better and better and better with age, and he's one of those guys that's graduating all the time. I'm very, very pleased for him on Saturday night, and we know that he's had some great victories in the last year. And I think on paper Felix Cash gave him a very, very hard fight, given his experience and what he's been able to do. But it just wasn't there for Felix. And I just wonder whether that layoff cost him, Matt.
Potentially. I think I agree with you on there for Tyler in terms of a big fight. That would tick all the boxes. And it'd be interesting to see because of Hamza's development, how he deals with a guy like Tyler Denny, who we sort of know how he's going to come, but he's getting better as the fights go on, as the fights get harder kind of thing. One thing from that night...
It's a beautiful time to match those two.
100%. 100%. I'm going to come on to just quickly on that fight night. The fight beforehand was possibly one of the best fights I've seen live, just purely because I think going into it, obviously on Mick and Jamie speak to quite frequently, and they've been telling me about this power from Lewis Crocker, and I've seen fights, but they're adamant that this guy has got like that one of the hardest, punches they've seen. And Jamie's talked about sparring stories and how he hits the pads. But to see Conah Walker, I think it was the first round, take one of them flush shots and then just carry on coming forward. You were almost like, what's going to happen here?
Yeah. I mean, it was a close fight, but the right man won for me. Conah Walker, like you say, walking through those punches, you just knew that this was going to be a fight of the year contender within a couple of rounds, and it was relentless. It was a brilliant performance by both men. I mean, they both took a lot of punishment. I mean, I'd like to see it again, but not too soon. But it completely delivered. And I think Conah Walker, again, he will come again. I mean, he's got so much there. He doesn't have the resume that Crocker has right now, which I think is 20-0 with 11 stoppages. But you look at what Crocker's been doing recent times. I think there was a win over Tyrone McKenna that was good. There's so many signs that, again, rather like Tyler Denny, this is a guy that's getting better, and he's working on things, and his team are working on things, and he's able to produce it. He's a very, very tough man, and I think a fight with him and Paddy Donovan in Ireland. Donovan's so slick. I think it's Limerick Paddy's from, and he's got thousands of cousins, hundreds of cousins, traveller cousins that all box. I just think that the atmosphere of those two is going to be the boxer against the brawler or the box fighter. Brilliant matchup.
Yeah, I spoke to Paddy after the fight, and he was in fine voice speaking about it. And it's nice that we're seeing that fight sort of from the outside looking in. It's a good fight for the hardcores, but there's getting that bit of spice to it now as well, that we can build a really good main event that has to happen in Ireland at some point.
Absolutely. I mean, Lewis and Paddy. Paddy. See what I like about them. It's the perfect fight right now because I was looking at the rankings. You look at Mario Barrios is the WBC champion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got Paddy at 15. Then you've got obviously Terence Crawford holds 2 of the other belts, and Yaron Ennis, the IBF, and Terence Crawford the WBA, WBO. We know he's fighting at light middle in a couple of weeks' time or a month or so's time. But you've got Lewis, but Paddy's 7 with the WBA, 15 with the WBC, and then you've got Crocker. Where did I see him? No, Paddy's 7 with the Crocker is 15 with the WBA and 12 with the WBO. So beautiful crossroads fight for both men. Beautiful, because the winner of that, you look at the other guys that are around. Errol Spence is knocking about around there. There's Errol Spence is only one above Conor Benn if he gets his act together with whatever's going to happen with him. There's Avanesian, who's going to be fighting very soon against Boots Ennis. There's a lot of, if anything happens to Avanesian, do you put Crocker in for the fight instead with Ennis? Is he going to give him a really hard time? Yeah, it's a great fight, isn't it, when you think about it? He's going to bring it.
Who would you give the edge to right now in a Crocker versus Donovan matchup? Is there someone with an edge, or is this just a fantastically poised matchup where we're all tuning in because we don't know?
I really rate Donovan's slick boxing skills and his confidence and what he can do and the way he moves and the way he creates angles. Crocker is a very direct fighter who's in your face, who's going to give it to you. It's really hard to pick a winner. I mean, I'm happy to sit on the fence on that one. I just want to see it happen. I'd have to see them together in fight week or just...
Yeah.
I'd say Donovan points, but he's going to be really stretched, Crocker. How about that?
Yeah, I'm with you on that result. Anyway, I think it's just shaping up really nicely. The news that are coming out, Tyson Fury's on his first interview since the Usyk defeat. Spoke about his fight in sort of length. I saw an article on Talks today with the interview in sort of drafted out, and he spoke about the rounds. He thought he was easily winning the fight. I think according to Tyson, I think it'd have ended up 116, 111 to himself by his own sort of scoring, the way he's looked at it. What do you make of that? We see fighters come back and sort of fight their own corners after defeat and say where they go wrong. He's a knowledgeable guy when it comes to boxing, the history and fighting. What do you make of that? Saying
I love his confidence. I love his confidence, and I wrote in terms of him going away and thinking for a while about. I wrote immediately afterwards that I think there was enough for him to take from the first 6 or 7 rounds to know that he can beat Usyk. If he looks back on that, I remember writing at the time that I thought he got too comfortable and too greedy in there, too much showboating. He found a way with Usyk. I don't want to take anything away from what Usyk did to change the pattern of the fight, which is what great fighters do. I can't make at the time, I remember saying, I'm not making a case for Tyson Fury winning that fight because I thought he lost it 114, 113. It was fairly clear to me. There were a few swing rounds in there maybe, but he's given himself the swing rounds. There is enough in that fight for Tyson Fury to believe that he can beat Oleksandr Usyk and beat him convincingly. They are both going to go to the well in the second fight. They're not getting any younger, but they're into their second half of their 30s now. The last fight took a lot out of them. He took a lot from the fact that he'd hurt Usyk with that uppercut to the jaw, lots of uppercuts, that he'd fractured his jaw, that he's fractured his orbital socket, trying to make a point about that. He did win on one of the judges' cards.
Yeah.
So when he looks at it from his one-eyed point of view, it's good to hear it. We want him flying and at his best against Usyk. It's going to be an amazing rematch. The first fight was extraordinary. It was a classic. And as you know, it took your breath away. It took your breath away so many times.
Yeah.
The drama, the theatre, the beguiling nature of both men during the week, the comportment of Fury at times was unusual. Usyk is a very unique character. I mean, you've got to say that he's a modern great in what he's done. There's no question about that. You know, beating everyone on the road, winning the cruiserweight tournament, everyone from Bradis to Hook was it as well on the road, and so many guys on the road that he beat in their own countries. He beat Joshua in his own country. He beat Bellew in his own country. You know, and what he produced against Fury was extraordinary. So what Fury has to do is bring some magic now. So I don't agree with him that he won, but he's got to see it that way because he's got to come back powerfully and with full confidence.
I think. Is there any have you heard anything in relation to this IBF situation? There was an article that went out, I believe, I think it was Sky Sports reported that there wasn't a request put in for the IBF title to be, I believe, put up against for the Joshua and Dubois, potentially the Dubois fight. You heard anything about that belt being on the line for the fight?
No, I haven't actually delved into that at all. I've been more concentrated on what's happening on, you know, in these few fights. I mean, obviously December the 21st is the date, but I think we'll learn more this week. By the way, when we have a press conference at Wembley on Wednesday, I think we'll learn more about that. I think there'll be the revelation of what's happening with that belt when we find out what's happening. Obviously, we know that Anthony Joshua is having a fight. Is it Joseph Parker? Is it Zhili Zhang? Is it Daniel Dubois? Who else is on the card? Is Hamza Shiraz fighting Chris Eubank has been teased? Or is it going to be Tyler Denny? Who will it be? I do hear that there's some fantastic fights on the card. It's not going to be one of those 16 fight cards. It's going to be one of those bangers with 7 or 8 fights on. And if we get this heat wave, on that night, it's going to be a big, balmy night of blistering action.
How good is it that we're getting that fight in the UK? I mean, we've seen a lot of the fights, and rightly so. Look, when the country's putting it on, and they're opening that door as well for tourism into the country, and you're getting tremendous backing. But Riyadh season, with His Excellency, bringing a huge fight to Wembley, like staging Anthony Joshua. And you mentioned there not just like 15 fights, but 7, 5, 6, 7 fights that are all top quality. How good is it that we can look forward to something like that?
Well, HE, the minister and the chairman of the GEA, Turki Al-Sheikh, has always said we're going to expand. And we know we've got the card in Los Angeles on August the 3rd. Obviously featuring Terence Crawford and many others, Valenzuela, Isaac Pitbull Cruz. I mean, some amazing fights on that card. And it's good to see that there's this expansion into Europe, into America, because they've delivered on what they said they were going to do. And it's, all the naysayers will eventually become the yay-sayers, and they will, because it's a slow roll. People don't like change, and they carp against change, and they moan and they complain. And we're getting the fights we need in the sports. We're getting the melting pot being warmed up. So, I'm really pleased about it, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the full lineup of fights are going to be on Wednesday. I mean, my instinct is the best fight for Joshua is Dubois. And the advocates of Anthony Joshua's resurgence are saying that they don't think it'll last 2 rounds, which, if it's going to be one of those fights, then it's a shootout. I think it will last a bit longer than that. I think it'll go to 6 or 7 or 8 rounds, but I do fancy Joshua to win it. But there are big dangers that Daniel Dubois carries, because he's learned so much from the loss to Usyk, the loss to Joyce, the win against Gerald Miller, and the win against Filip Hrgovic in his last outing, Matt.
100%. Before the start of last week, we ain't caught up since. Ryan Garcia got a ban midweek, I believe it was. The news came out. I want to say Wednesday evening, early Thursday morning. He gets a 1-year ban. Haney gets his record changed, so he's still undefeated, back to a no contest. I mean, we sort of, in a way, this has been handled very quickly.
It's good. No, it's good.
But in terms of a 1-year ban, athletes nowadays, when you're at that top tier, when you're making the money, your Canelos, your Ryan Garcias, your Mayweathers of the bygone era, they only fight once or twice a year anyway. So a 1-year ban, when you look at it from the outside, is it an actual punishment? Do you think?
Well, of course it's a punishment, but what they believe they have evidence they brought to the New York. They must have brought some kind of evidence to get a 1-year ban, not a 2 or a 4-year ban. They brought some evidence which they stated that there had been Austrian in a supplement. They needed to produce that supplement batch, obviously, and have evidence of that. They've obviously produced something for the New York State Athletic Commission to make their decision. I'm glad it's been dealt with quickly. And also, Devin's gone walkabout for a year as well, hasn't he? So
apparently, yeah.
Well, the fight they might both have when they come back is each other. I think the New York State Athletic Commission have a decent record about being stringent about things. But boxing also wants its big stars back in the game. So, Garcia out for a year doesn't damage the American boxing firmament too much. But even more than that, we're seeing Shaka Stevenson a bit unhappy at the moment because he's not getting enough limelight and enough praise. Where Tank Davis is the guy that's rising to #1 at the moment. Devin Haney hasn't been beaten now on his record, but he looked vulnerable in that fight. But how affected was he by those extra 3 pounds, which is a very fair argument. And next time they've got to make sure that there is a no paying up if you're overweight clause with Ryan Garcia. Make the weight, and then make the fight. I really do think they'll fight again. It's an enormous fight the second time around. It's even bigger. And you think how big it was?
I mean, just because of everything that's gone on in the aftermath, that fight's now a lot bigger than when it was originally made.
Yeah.
Sort of the last sort of closing points from me. We mentioned the fight in Birmingham, and I thought the headlines were going to be taken up by the main and the co-main event, two terrific fights. When we were asking about why the Akib Fiaz and the Kane Baker fight was off, Eddie Hearn mentioned irregular betting activity, which was the reason the fight was pulled. He went to the commissions, then went to the board, and then said, look, we want to pull this fight, and then the board apparently agreed. I asked him if he'd ever dealt with anything like that. He says, not in all his years has he ever dealt with anything like that. A strange scenario, Gareth.
Yeah, it was. And I think the good thing is that both boxers brought this to light. Mm-hmm. I don't know the full details of it. It's still under investigation. But my understanding is both boxers brought it to light. And Kane Baker's made a statement. I'm not sure Fiaz has yet. No. Baker's certainly made a statement saying that why would he ever do this? He's never done it in his life. And that he was talked to. Then they made it obvious to one of the trainers, and the trainers told Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn informed the board, and they thought the best thing to do was to pull the fight. Both boxers acted properly, in my view, but we don't want this going on in boxing. And I think they pulled the fight for the efficacy of the sport and the efficacy of the two boxers, because had something happened in the fight around the irregular betting, there would have been speculation that there was a bribe or it had been fixed. As it happens now, it never happened. So it's unfortunate they didn't get to fight, but I think the best thing happened. We can't have match fixing in boxing. We can't have bribery in boxing. I remember in 2020, Dave Allen and Dorian Darch were accused of in a fight where Dave Allen stopped Dorian Darch in the third round, and there was an accusation of cheating. But I think again it was investigated, but nothing came of it in the end. Can't have it in the sport. The sport in the past has suffered occasions when boxers have later revealed that they were asked to fix a fight. Famously Jake LaMotta, and then he got a world title shot 10 fights later. And won the world title. And I think, those things need to remain in the past, and we don't want them in this. It's just not good. It's a terrible stain on the sport. So the best thing happened, in my view.
100%. Look, let's we all know there's something coming on Wednesday. So
a big press conference is going to be around Wembley. Hint, hint. Well, listen, we all know there's going to be a big card in Wembley Stadium in September. Big announcement Wednesday afternoon. Anthony Joshua, we know, is going to be fighting, but it's who it is. And will there be a belt on the line? Will there be an interim on the line? All of that kind of stuff. So
100%. Well, look, Gareth, I appreciate you giving us a run through on a lot of stuff. I appreciate some of it was maybe like middle of last week, but we've all managed to catch up now. So I thank you for your time as usual. Always good with it. And we'll catch up soon, but not for a good week because I'm on holiday tomorrow. I mean, Wednesday.
Oh, you're not coming on when you're not coming to the press conference then? Okay, well, have a lovely time, and don't leave it too long next time before we do this again.
100%. Gareth, as always, appreciate it. We catch up soon.
See you later. Cheers.